every day. So that's why, why should you listen to me? Is this is pretty much all I do now is I just list houses. And for the new people on this Zoom call, Kathy and I have been in the business for over 33 years. I've sold over 5,500 homes and about $1.5 billion in sales. But the listing is pretty much all I do now for DMA real estate. And I actually have taken on a couple buyers just because we have so many leads coming in right now that we actually have an overflow of buyer leads. So I've had to kind of do that. I love that. Um, but so what we want to kind of do is 2026, first of all, there's a lot of doom and gloom about what's happened in the past couple of years. Okay. There's been a lack of inventory. I think we have sales levels that were at levels that we haven't seen for 25 years. And so we're all dealing with about half the amount of transactions that we've had in the past, right? Just to give you some context, we're supposedly supposed to be in this bad market. DMA real estate will close somewhere between 18 and 20 deals this month. And not the only reason I bring that up is there is activity happening. The question comes down to is, do you want to be part of that activity? And I've always been a believer that whoever has the listings wins, because of the fact that, especially stuff now like with Zillow, right? Zillow's going crazy and doing all those different things, and they're trying to control the data and the listings. And we gave them that information. We gave them that gun a long time ago to be able to try to control the narrative, control buyers, things like that, right? How can we take that back? And again, full disclosure, I'm a Zillow Premier agent. And the reason for that is because they have built the best mousetrap and they are the brightest and the best in the industry. I like to be with the brightest and the best in the industry. And I look at everything as an ROI. What's my return on investment? And I have a positive Zillow ROI. And the other part of that from the listing standpoint, 35% of the buyers that we get from some of our lead generation sources turn to sellers. They need to buy and sell. So, but listings will breed those buyers. And so if you are listing inventory, the buyers are going to call you, okay? And the more listings you get, the more that you can control that narrative, and it will also help your buyer business as well, okay? But let's talk about the first one, which is just, it's a no-brainer about the number one source that you all should be using, and you should be doubling down on, tripling down on, and that's your center of influence, okay? Why is our center of influence the number one source of our leads? Because these are people that already know and like you, okay? I prefer to do business with people I know. I also prefer, if I don't know somebody, I prefer to go to one of my friends and say, who did you use to install your furnace? Who did you use to do your hardwood floors, right? And the reason I do that is because what I want to have is if that person that they refer to me screws me, excuse the terminology, or is not professional, et cetera, they're not only going to lose my business moving forward, they're going to lose that person that referred them. And they know that person gave them business, and that's the easiest business you can get. So what we want to do is we want to double down on all the people in our database. Now, this one, I do want you to be interactive. Who on this call does not have every single person that they know in a database, anyone that might buy or sell real estate? Who does not have that in an organized CRM like Lofty or Follow Up Boss or anything like that? Is there anybody on this call that does not have everybody they know in an organized database? Okay, Lisa,
No.
thank you for being honest, okay? Because one of the things that I get when I sit down in front of people, and I also do training and mentoring on the side, and the first thing I ask them is, where's your database? Have you written down is in one place all the people that you know that might buy or sell real estate? And the answer 90% of the time is no. And then the other thing I get with newbies or new realtors that are just getting into the business, Dave, while I'm getting my license or this, that, and the other thing, what should I be doing? And I will tell you every single time I tell them, get all the people that you know in an organized database, because your database is going to be the lifeblood of your business moving forward from this day. If you want to do this business long term, what you are basically going to do is you want to start your CRM or your database of everyone you know now. And then what are we going to do with every single person that we come into contact with from that day forward? We're going to feed the database. Okay. And so I've been in the business for 33 years. I would say that 70% of my business comes from my center of influence. Okay. And we'll talk about some of the things that we do. So where I was at 11 o'clock today, I was having lunch with one of my very good clients who referred me her sister and her husband. And between the three of them, they did 3 real estate transactions with me in the past month. Excuse me, the past year. I take that back. In the past year. Jan has referred me over $7 million in real estate in the past 5 years. So I understand people that want to do client parties and things like that. And one of the things that we should take, and Angelos, thank you so much for having Abby on the call today. That was one of the best things I've ever heard. And I've been in the business for 33 years. And that was phenomenal. It was knocked out of the park. And that should be something we should share with not just Michigan. We should share that in break room and things like that, because I thought that was at that level.
Yeah.
But a lot of people want to do client appreciation parties. They'll rent out a movie theater, things like that. One of the things that hit for me, and I'm an introvert, okay? So I'm an extreme introvert. And most people, they wouldn't believe me if I told them that. And so everyone has to figure out the best way to touch their people that's comfortable for them. And I don't come from the family of, you got to do uncomfortable things in order to be successful. My suggestion is do what's comfortable to you, because you will continue to do it. You'll be natural at doing it, and you will get a lot of business. So my philosophy is, Sharon, a couple of years at Rise ago, said, here's the deal. Go back through your database after a couple of years, and there's going to be about 10 to 15 people that refer you most of your business, right? So what Dave does, and again, one of the things is talk to different people, talk to Abby, talk to Angela, talk to Elizabeth, talk to different people about how they touch their center of influence and find out what works for you, okay? My comfort is I love, and I've got a partner that's just, everybody loves her. And she's very magnanimous and things like that. And she also was part of the transactions. So we took these 3 people out and we just had a blast. And I just got probably, I would say from today's lunch, 3 listings. One across the street from someone that just passed away. Brother's doing brother's handling the whole transaction. He's hours away. And he's going to call me to get a value for that property. Jan, who's my person that I've known for a long, long time, I just sold her condo for $25,000 above list price, the highest in the neighborhood. Her friend, which she had already told me about, said that she's going to be doing something in the next 30 days. And it's not even a matter of if she's going to call. She says, oh, she's already said, I'm only using Dave. But what I did is I reinforced that relationship. I'm in front of them. The other part about it too is no one gives a shit what you know until they know you care. And by doing these things, I show, in Fred, who's my client's the hub, he's very, very just doesn't, he doesn't like a lot of people. He's not a people person. And he said, Dave, why do you want to take you out to lunch? I love Fred, right? I said, Fred, it's because I love you. And he mentioned that at the table. Dave said he loved me. And I also said, Fred, do you think I do this with all my clients? I do not. There's many clients that I want to be done with on the end of that transaction. I don't ever want to see them again. I love you guys. This is fun for me. So make those connections. And we spend so much money on trying to get leads, both buyers and sellers, from people that don't know us. We spend money on Zillow and all these other things. And these people don't know us, trust us, will do business with us, right? Spend the majority of your time with your center of influence. And the other big thing is every time you have a transaction, make it memorable and just give them the white glove service and go to your closings. Make sure it's an experience. Always under promise, over deliver. And that center of influence will be your, I mean, it's the source of 70% of our business every year. And it's not something that we have to spend a lot of time on, but we do need to be consistent and we need to be diligent in doing it. Does that all make sense? But find out, and there's Abby right there. I mean, Abby, hands off. You knocked it out of the park, and you're now my example of how to do these things. And if you don't mind, Abby, I want Angela to share that to all of Real Broker. But Abby's personal touch and the way that she basically makes her past clients part of her family, and that's one of the things we use is these people are now part of the DMA family now. You are part of DMA family. You're not just client, you're part of the DMA family now. And so that's why that center of influence, Abby, how much of your business, percentage of your business comes from your center of influence?
I think 100%.
Yep. So they're probably, everyone on this call is probably thinking this dude's going on way too long about center of influence and things like that. There's a
Yeah.
reason for that. This is the lifeblood of your business, and you need to be intentional with it. You need to reach out, and it has to be genuine, 100%. And Abby knows me a little bit, and we're very genuine. I don't blow sunshine up anybody's. Yeah, Angela?
It's true. I was just going to say my business is also 100% referrals and repeat clients. And when you're thinking of that sphere of influence, I am at the point now where I'm actually part of my sphere are my lenders, are my inspectors, are my power washers, are my landscapers that I refer. They are now also referring to me as well. And I think that's kind of that next level where it's not just the people that you've worked with. And it takes a while to build to that point to be that agent who is mostly or completely sphere of influence. But it's worth it because you're right. These are those warm introductions where by the time you're sitting at their table, they already think they know you and they already love you because of what they've heard about you. So it's a great way to have your business.
And let me ask both Abby and Angela, put them both on the hot seats. Is what percentage of your business for listings are come list me's? Tell me your percentage, which are basically
100%.
you're just going to sign the paperwork. You're not interviewing, you're not doing anything. You're
Yeah.
just basically, I call them come list me's,
Mm-hmm.
that you've already been talked up by everyone
Yeah.
else. So you don't have to spout your own praises.
Yeah.
When other people are spouting your praises rather than you, that's much better. If
Yeah,
I say
I
I've sold 5,500 homes, I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread, they don't give a shit. They don't care
They
about
don't
that.
care.
Oh,
yeah.
they do
I
not.
remember like I talked a little bit this morning about like the things that I like didn't know about real estate, you know. And I think that that was one of the things that early on for me, I was like, you guys get interviewed? Because I knew when I was going there, we were just kind of going there to do the paperwork but then I have been interviewed a couple of times, but I would say like over I don't know, let me just a random number here, probably like over the last 150 listings, I've probably been interviewed like 3 times.
Yeah.
So,
I
Huge.
have people meet me at the front door with a notepad because my clients have already said, "Oh, Angela has a lot of notes and there'll be a to-do list." That's my favorite. So
There,
that's when you know they've really talked about you in depth. But again, it took time to get there, right?
and you gotta do some of these things that we're going to talk about after this to get some of that business. But the thing is that and again, I kind of jokingly kind of say that I have a 92% success rate. So if 100 people call me to list their homes, I get 92. The little fine print at the bottom of all these advertisements is that 80% of 80 to 85% of those are come list me's. So it's not really a fair statistic. So I mean, it's something that if you can build your business, and again, if we don't have a large center of influence, if we're not social media stars, like I'm not like it. I don't have a personality like Abby where everybody loves you and stuff like that. I've got to work a little bit harder.
That's not true, Dave.
I wasn't looking, hey, I really was not looking for
No,
any
I
flowers.
really do
No,
love you. I do.
but we have different personalities. So like I said, I think I'm a combination between you and Chris. So, but the thing is that not all of us have that personality. Not all of us can go on social media. I've tried my social media thing, and as everyone has already told me on that, is Dave, you have a face for radio and a voice for radio. Stick to radio. Don't get on camera. So anyway, so that's why I go with some of these other things that work for me. But I think the key to all this is center of influence is what everyone on this call should be working toward. So how do we fill that pipeline where we can have these people to talk to? Fair enough. So let's kind of move on. Center of influence is everything. And then the other part that I loved with Abby, again, I'm just gonna my R&D department is going to pretty much be Abby today. My rip off and duplicate is offer something of value when you're reaching out to your clients. Offer something of value, and I'm going to double down on Angela. Angela, you said you have a lot of your contractors and things like that that are part of your family, your Angela Hyde family. What about reaching out and saying, "Hey, it's been a year since we bought your house or sold your house. Do you need any names of contractors or things like that that you might be thinking about doing an improvement or doing something like that? Reach out to me because I've got a name of all the top professionals in the area that I can refer to you to help you with some of the things that you were thinking about doing. Would that be of interest to you?" And that's just something that you're not asking for business. You're basically offering them something of value. And then if they reach out, which a lot of times they will, because I see it all the time. And then the other part, like center of influence, is I loved how Abby, like Detroit Tigers tickets and things like that, where you kind of go out in your social media place and go, "Hey, I've got a couple of Tiger tickets, text me or email me, and we'll put those in a hat." One of our things is we donate to Pinckney players. So I live in a town where there's not a whole lot of culture. That's why they let me in. And so the thing that we do is we sponsor Pinckney players, which is one of the cultural things of the of Pinckney. And then so we're their season sponsor. Okay, so we sponsor all. We get like 18 free tickets for that. So what do? We send out something. Last one was Elf, the play Elf. We send something out saying, "Hey, we've got extra tickets for free extra tickets for Elf. If you want some, let us know and we'll get them at the will call for you." And one of my clients that just bought in Pinckney said, "I can't, that's so amazing that you're supporting Pinckney and things like that. Already referred me somebody." Okay. So that $3,000 sponsorship, I got a $400,000 listing, $12,000 for that. Okay. But I've also got her as far as this guy likes the community. So center of influence, huge. Send out stuff of value. Stay in front of them. Consistency. You're going to hear that term a lot. Consistent, be consistent, be consistent. Okay? Do it on a regular basis. And that leads us to the second one, which is I love geographical farming. Is there anyone here that does geographical farming? And what this is like, so let's say you have a neighborhood and you're consistently doing something of value within your neighborhood. Okay. Or I used to have a 25,000 person farm. Okay. And then I made the big mistake of thinking I wanted to come into the $1 million Ann Arbor business right about when when the markets turned. I had 25% of the whole Ypsilanti market. And I was like, I'm going to upgrade to Ypsi, which I thought was an upgrade. And I had a geographical farm in Ypsilanti, about 25,000. That was getting me consistently a listing to 2 listings a week. I stopped doing that. Went to Ann Arbor thinking because I just sold 4 $1 million properties. Market changed. I tried to go back to Ypsi. Guess what happened? I lost it. I've never gotten it back. So what we want to do with geographical farming is we want to pick, first of all, if you live in a neighborhood, who here lives in a neighborhood and they're not not sending out something within the neighborhood? Is there any, pretty much everybody? Okay. That's bad. Okay. That's bad. So the second easiest business you can get are who are the next part of people that know and trust you. Um, it's going to be your geographical people, the people that you live within your neighborhood. Okay. And so you may be walking your dog or something like that, and someone stops you, and just regular talking. But if you can send something out once a month to your neighborhood, even if it's and I know people, even if it's a recipe for a mac and cheese, or it's hey, make sure when we change back the clocks, you're checking your furnace filter, things like that. You want to do it on a regular basis. I used to get, before my center of influence was huge, 70%, I would say 60% of my business came from geographical farming. Okay. There was one particular neighborhood, and I'm just going to use this real quick. There was one neighborhood in Ypsilanti Township. It was new construction. They did not co-op with realtors. So none of them were attached to realtors. I ended up getting the first resale in the neighborhood, 688 homes in this neighborhood. I got the first resale. I sent out a just sold postcard because I sold it within a couple of days. I got 3 listings off of that. In the first year, I got 88 of the 100 resales within that neighborhood. 88 of 100. Now, I will preface that that's pre-internet, meaning social media and things like that. It's tougher to do geographical marketing from a physical direct mail, but now there's ways to do your geographical farming where you can start a Facebook group. You can do next door if you want to do it. But what you want to do is you want to get in front of your neighbors and let them know that you're in real estate. Okay. And here's the other part about letting people know you're in real estate. I'm going to give you one of my second biggest blunder. The first one was that whole Ipsy Ann Arbor one. So I was in the business for about 6 months. I see this listing come up, and it's like, that's my godparents' house, right? And so I called them and I said, Chuck, I called him actually, Chuck, I said, what's up? You listed your house. Why didn't you call me? And you want to know what he said? Oh man, Dave, I totally forgot you were a realtor. I didn't even think about it. I'm thinking about you as I sold shoes to get through college, and I thought you're still selling shoes and stuff like that, even though I had sent one postcard. But what that aha moment was for me is you got to let your people know that you're in the business, however you have to do it. Yes, I do not like to go into a party and go, I'm a realtor. If you want to buy or sell real estate, call me. I don't like doing that myself, right? But invariably what ends up happening now is people are coming up to me and saying, hey, Dave, I got your card. So what is going on with that, with the neighborhood? Hey, I got your just sold card that you sent out. So what did that actually sell for? What do you think I could sell mine for? I'm starting conversations, okay? And so geographical farming, you want to make sure that you do something once every month. You want to make sure that your message is consistent. And then the other part, the other part we got to talk about is branding. The part about all this is that your brand, you have to have your brand in mind, and your brand needs to be consistent. So every time you send something out, so if you're sending an email out to your center of influence, your brand needs to look like your brand. And then every other thing you do, your signs, your mailings, any email address, or when you send out emails, your brand needs to be on that. Okay. Real estate's not about sales, it's about branding. And anyone that's heard me talk, the whole Kleenex thing. So if you ask somebody, what do you blow your nose with? What's the answer? What do you blow your nose with?
We say Kleenex, but that's a brand.
Correct. You blow your nose with tissue, but
Hmm.
we all say Kleenex because what has Kleenex done? They have branded themselves to be the brand you think of when you blow your nose.
Yep.
So, what do we want to do from a branding standpoint? We want our neighbors and our center of influence and these other people that we're going to talk about to think of us when they're thinking of buying and selling real estate. Even if it's not a come list me, but you've got an opportunity to get in the door. And then I did a previous little Zoom about the actual listing appointment. If you're having trouble with listing appointments, go watch that Zoom. Okay. But what we want, there's another thing about all this kind of stuff too, as far as geographical farming, is if you are not going to be consistent and you're not going to make a 12-month commitment, I won't even bother doing it. Here's the reason why. Has anyone heard of reticular activating system? Lisa, it should be on. Lisa, what I'll do is again, I will send you the link, but it should be on Real Academy. These other ones, but sometimes they don't always do it. But Lisa, I've got your contact information. I will shoot you a link to that. Okay, and I'll do that afterwards. But reticular activating system. So the reason I have to bring this up is I do have a degree in psychology, and I have to make myself feel good about all the money I spend on that degree. Um, how many people do you recommend to send in the neighborhood? So that is going to be a different thing. So as far as well, let me finish with reticular. The reticular activating system is, so let's say you're sending out a mailing into a neighborhood and someone's not thinking about buying or selling real estate. And let's say you're doing a postcard. Let's just use a postcard. When they see that postcard, and they're not thinking about buying or selling real estate, what happens with that postcard? It's probably going to go in the trash, or it's not going to have a whole lot of face time, right? But that potential seller does recognize it. They recognize the brand. They recognize that you're sending something in there, right? So let's say 3 months down the road, that seller gets the call that they're being moved to Connecticut, right? You need to get your house sold. We need to get you Connecticut. You need to be there within 30 days. Now, anything that comes across their periphery, they are going to be paying attention to. Okay. So the next postcard that comes across their desk, they're going to be calling that person. So if you want to, if you want to try to have luck on your side, you know, don't be consistent. But if you're doing it every month, they see your name and brand, and then they also see the fact that, oh my gosh, this person must be doing business. So they get that call, your postcard hits them a couple days later. Guess what happens? Now, everything that has to do with real estate, they're paying 100% like a hawk attention to. They will call you. And if you don't send that fourth postcard and you did the first three, you're not getting that business. So you have to be consistent. Like I said, that one neighborhood that was my first geographical farm, I ended up listing 88 of the first 100 resales in that neighborhood. Then someone figured out what I did and they came in. Then I had competition and stuff like that. But and which it should be. But as far as the size of your farm, start small. Like if it's your neighborhood, just do your neighborhood. Now, what I did is I did my neighborhood, and then as I started doing like that one mill point, which is 688, I did 688. They built another one, another sub 500. I put that into it. Then they put another subdivision in, and it got up to 25,000. Okay. And the other part about geographic, so the other one that I do is I do my whole city where I live now. I live in Pinckney, Michigan, 9,000, 9,600. Okay. I do every door direct mail. And it costs me about $3,200 to send that out. Who think that's a horrible investment? That's a lot of money, isn't it?
I have a question, Dave.
Yeah.
When you say it costs $3,200 to send that out, that's like one mailer for the whole city?
One mail for the whole city. Yep.
All right. Like, how much business do you think you do off of the mailers?
Okay, so pre-internet and things like that, I would probably get 5 listings from that at least. So
From one
average,
mailer?
yes,
Yeah.
Wow, that's
yes.
crazy.
I
So
used
it's
to say,
not as much now because you're competing
yeah.
so many different ways, but direct mail to me is still, I mean, I also love it because I'll go for listing appointments and my postcard will be on
Mhm.
their uh, on their fridge, or when I sit down with them at their listing appointment, they've got 10 of my postcards in front of them.
So few
Okay.
agents do that, the direct mailing anymore. And it's funny because it's kind of one of my things I want to get back to in 2026. I did it through 2020 and then, then there was no business and I didn't have money. So I moved to like free things like newsletters and emails. But I will say that, so I sent at that time, so 6 years ago, so for like 3 or 4 years, I sent 250 postcards every single month, for several years. The most expensive part was the postage. That's what I could no longer afford at that one time. And I would average every year 2 to 3 closed transactions from those postcards. And you're right, you cannot do one and done. It has to be over and over. And I have gone to the table, like you said, and there's your postcard. So, so many agents aren't doing that because, everyone's into tech and AI and all that, which is great. But now, instead of getting like 10 postcards, a month from all these different agents, like nobody's doing it. So you might be the only one doing it, which is fantastic.
That's the key because everyone's into the social media part because it's not anywhere near as expensive. And I agree with that. And so the other part too is a lot of people might, for me to cold call 9,200 people or 9,600 people would be astronomical. For me to be able to put a postcard out there, um, to put a postcard out there, again, I get one listing. The average sales price in Pinckney, even though we're a small city, is 400,000. And so that's a $12,000 commission from something like that. But most of the time I get multiples. And I also try to send something of value as well. So like when I'm promoting Pinckney players, so I'll send something out promoting Pinckney players and the elf is coming up. And I try to set myself as a Pinckney resident and your Pinckney realtor type of thing. That's what we're trying to go for. And I'm really not into you know, the only time I kind of do the just sold, and when I do a just sold, I do it to the whole city. When I do 90 to 600 every single time when I do just sold, because the last two I sold in there were both record prices um in those neighborhoods. So, you try to be, hey, you know what, the greatest thing since sliced bread. You try to send something out saying, hey, we've got top dollar for this. We can't promise you we're going to do the exact same thing for you, but we've already got results. That's what we're trying to have them think. Yep, Abby.
Chris is sitting over here at the table with me. He wanted me to ask you, is it a postcard that you're sending out?
Yes, and we do the big ones too. We don't do the small ones, which get lost with everything else. We do the big ones, and
Yeah, you do have
that's
to do the big ones. I do too. What are they, like 5 by 7 or because yeah,
yeah,
they don't get lost in the thing. And one of the things I did for offering value, so like one year it was a home maintenance type, tip or something like that you could easily do.
yep.
And then another year I always had like 5 things, you know, why should you call me? 5 reasons to, and do your curb appeal, is kind of that sort of thing, but do the big postcard.
Yeah,
And
Chris just said that there was one of your postcards was sitting on my mom's kitchen table last time we were there. She lives in Chelsea.
oh, that's right. Well, yep, that was that Main Street one that I think he said something about it. But and
Yeah.
again, it's I think part of it is my whole thing on lead generation for anyone that wants to listen to it is I believe that you should find one or two things that you enjoy doing and do well. Like myself being an introvert, I don't mind social media. I have no phobia or I'm not camera shy or anything like that. But that's for me in person at open houses is 100% my best way. My center of influence, and then this geographical farming. And then the geographical farming part of it too is, to me, these I do pretty much everything we're talking about. I do every one of these things, but the branding's all consistent, and the geographical farming is just so they've seen your sign in the yard, and then you've done open houses, and then you might do circle prospecting, in which we'll get to in just a second, and I'll tell you how to utilize that. But all these different types of things, find out what you enjoy doing. Like Abby, I love watching your social media. I enjoy it. And it's something that I would look at and go, I want to work with this person. You had someone on the meeting today said, I would work with her. And that's what it's all about. We have to understand what our personalities are and what we will do to be successful at this business. And for me, it's not a matter of, how will I be successful? It's not a matter of will I be successful? I will be successful. It's just going to be, how am I going to get there? What works for me? And then the other part, and what works for you, what you enjoy doing, what is that also part of? Being authentic. And I think authentic is huge, which I have to apologize for my authenticity a lot, because I'm kind of like a bull in a china shop, but that's who I am, and I don't apologize. So the geographical farming, again, you don't have to pick up a large area. If you're not doing it in your own neighborhood, start with your own neighborhood. You can get information from, so where do I get information from? I get it from local tax records. You can go to your title company, they can get it. And there's a million different ways that you can get that information. Here in the Ann Arbor area, I can go directly to the city and we can get it there. There are companies that will also get you all those names and addresses too. Back in the early days of doing this, we got the tax records. We went through and input them into a database. So we did it all by hand. And like I said, it was 70% of our 60 to 70% of our business at one time. I once had, there was one time when I had 70 listings. But when I moved over to Keller Williams, I had 70 listings that I had to move over.
One quick thing too about the direct mailers. So my neighborhood only has like 49 houses, and at one time, 4 agents, realtors lived in my neighborhood. So that was interesting. Never be afraid to still market those neighborhoods, even though real estate agents live there. They're really, or there might be a home for sale. The thing that you just have to have, Michigan requires on your mailing to say, and it can be small print, just has to be on there, not intended to solicit already listed properties. So, because it's hard to know, like if you're mailing to 100 people in a subdivision, there might be 3 homes for sale where you're protected by that statement. And again, everyone knows 3 to 5 agents, so it doesn't matter that they're in the neighborhood. You can still mail in that area.
And that brings up an important point too, that it used to be back in the old days, I used to preach that if there was already a dominant realtor in the area and things like that, it probably was not a great idea to go through and geographically farm that. I still believe that for areas outside your own neighborhood. I still think in your neighborhood, you should be marketing yourself and you should be sending out these things and doing that in conjunction. And then when you get the first listing, so let's kind of move on to the next one, which is, so let's say you get a listing in your neighborhood, okay? So that's the best advertising you can get, is to actually put a sign in the yard, okay? Now, what we want to do is we want to take that listing to get multiple listings. So how do we do that? Okay. So first of all, we talk about branding. So make sure your sign is branded with everything else. And then the first Sunday after you do, yeah, good job, Emery. You should keep on doing it too. Keep on farming that. Be consistent. Send something out at least once a month. But so what we want to do an open house that first Sunday. And so who here hates cold calling? Who does not like picking up the phone going, my name is Dave Mueller. I'm a realtor with DMA Real Estate and Real Broker. And do you want to buy or sell some real estate? Yeah. So what I do is I want to find something of value that if I'm going to call into the neighborhood with do not call lists and stuff like that's a little bit tougher. But here's what I do. So let's say we have an open house, and that gives you a chance to, you got your sign in the yard. Now you can put open house signs in there. You can have that branded and everything like that. You can do the balloons and everything for the actual open house. But what it also allows you to do from my standpoint is go, hey, Angela, this is Dave Mueller with Real Broker and DMA Real Estate. Reason for my call today is I'm not sure if you're aware, I just listed a house right down the street. Hey, Angela, it's the same model as what you have there too, that you own. And what I wanted to do was I'm just kind of calling into the neighborhood because one of the things I've always found is that the neighbors are some of my best sources of leads for buyers, and just want to check if you might know some buyers in the neighborhood that might be interested in the house. And then you might get some pushback. And then the other part, Angela, is I'm a big believer in information gathering process and always having the information. And what I wanted to do was invite you to my open house on Sunday. And so you can see it because Angela, it's the same floor plan as what you have. This is the price I'm getting. And why don't you come see how it compares to your house to see, and maybe you might even get some decorating ideas or something like that for your house. And I'm going to have some cookies and some punch and stuff like that. I'd love to see you come on down. I mean, if you don't, hey, wonderful. But come on. I mean, I'd love to meet you and I'd love to show you the house. And then that will also give you an idea of the values because I think it's important to keep up with what's going on in your neighborhood, don't you? So what that allows me to do is I feel like I'm providing something of value. Hey, Angela, I'm not trying to sell her anything. Come see it again. And what's one of the things that I do well? One of my strengths. Yeah, how are you getting phone numbers to the neighbors? Mojo Dialer, RedX, Vulcan. You can get those numbers, and they're now starting to get cell phone numbers. And you don't have to just do phone. You might do a door knocker where you just put something on saying you have an open house on Sunday, because you find a lot of DNCs, do not calls. But provide something of value. And that's the way I kind of try to do it is, hey, this is for your information. Yeah. Door knocking is good too. I have a hard time with door knocking, being 6'4", 250 pounds. I never know what's on the other side where someone feels threatened or something, especially when you look like me. So yeah, I get that. But you provide something of value. And invite them there. And the reason I'm doing that, because I'm much better with people in person. I'll use that 6'4", 250 to my advantage when you're in front of me. Okay. And unlike now, I'm actually charming in person. So it helps me with my business. Okay. But now you're branding. Now they see, and then what's the other part about like an open house is I can't tell you how many listings I've gotten from open houses where they come in and go, yeah, you're Dave Mueller, aren't you? And, yeah, last time I checked. And they'll go, why are you doing open houses? You do all this business and stuff like that. I enjoy it. It's pretty cool. I can get away from the house for a little bit too. And it's my most productive 2 hours. And how many listings I've gotten because they said, Dave, we like the fact that you're out there busting your butt on a Sunday when you could be doing anything else. And I don't work with buyers for the most part, but I'm out there because I get direct feedback, and I can't tell you how many listings I've gotten from open houses. The people I met today, that I got the listing on Island Lake, I sold their house off an open house, and the people that bought it, I listed their house over in Dexter. So I got over $1 million worth of business from an open house. I didn't get a single showing from realtor showings, held it open every Sunday. But I got $1 million worth of business just for being there. Okay. So then the other part, so once you sell that listing, right? The next thing we want to do is celebrate your success, make sure you're doing sold signs and things like that. And then afterwards, I would send something out, and whether you do it by a postcard or by a phone call or whatever, make sure you send something out saying, hey, just want to let you know we sold this house down the road. We had 7 offers on it, end up going, well over list price, and we sold it in a weekend, had 77 showings in the 3 days and 41 people through the open house. And 6 other people did not get that house and are looking in your neighborhood. Okay. And that's something to me of value. I'm letting them know that. The other part about that whole getting back to circle marketing. So I don't like to cold call. And so I got to psych myself up. So let me tell you a nice little circle marketing thing for once you've sold something. Okay. So I had a house in Saline, is about $500,000. I had 6 offers come in on it. Went for about 35,000 over list price. It was the only house in the neighborhood. 77 houses. Average list price in there is probably about 5.25, 550. Okay. And so I had a couple of realtors reach out. Dave, do you have anything else in your pocket or anything like that? I said, no, but here's what I will do is I'm going to be on the phone tomorrow and I will try to find you some listings. I'll try to find some listings for your buyers because they didn't want a cold call or anything like that. So, and I've only really cold called twice in my career. This was one of them. So what I did is I picked up the phone and I had in my mind, it's like, I got to provide something of value, right? And I'm kind of a goofball when I get on the phone. And what I kind of do is, oh my God, is this Abby? Abby, this is Dave Mueller. I'm a realtor with DMA Real Estate and Real Broker. And the reason for my call today is I don't know if you noticed that there was a house for sale right down the street from you. Were you aware of that? Well, Dave, yeah, we saw your sign and everything like that. It looked like it sold pretty quickly. What did it end up selling for? I would tell them, and so I was kind of say, yeah, and I can't, Abby, I can't believe I'm doing this, man. I'm 60 years old. I'm I've resorted to cold calling into a neighborhood. I mean, this is ridiculous. You know what? Anyways, Abby, the reason for my call is I promised these other realtors who buyers that did not get the listing that I was going to call into the neighborhood to find out if there was anybody else that might be thinking about buying or selling. Abby, do you know of anyone in the neighborhood that you think of that might be buying or selling that I might be able to contact to help these buyers agents be able to have a listing? And it's amazing that's actually how I talked. Okay. I broke any ice and they're just like, oh my God, Dave, I'm so sorry. You're 60 years old. You're cold calling. Oh my God, I'm so sorry for you. And they said, Dave, and what I'm really asking them, are you thinking about selling? But that's not what I said. I said, do you know of anyone thinking about buying or selling? And the great one was the first one I got was, Dave, you didn't hear it from me. 2 doors down, they're going through a divorce. And I know that they're going to sell because wife can't afford it, husband can't afford it. So I know it's going up on the market. You should call them. Here's their numbers. So I made 70 of those phone calls. And by the end of that day, I had 4 listings all over $500,000. And I don't like cold calling, but I made it my own. I was authentic. I don't want people cold calling me, but if you go and you're funny and you're not, I can't use the word charming with myself, but if you're approachable, you're affable and things like that, they will talk to you. You break the ice. You break down the friction. Do it. I guarantee you'll get listings. And why don't I do it more? Trust me, Kathy asks me that question every single day. Okay? But you have to have fun with it. And I'm also providing value. They did not know that there's no other houses. I would go, are you aware there's no other houses for sale? They go, you gotta be kidding me. Nope, there's not a single one for sale. And everything comes down to supply and demand. If you want to get top dollar for something, this is the time to do it. Who do you know? And I 2 of them gave me other people's numbers. And then one of them said, I will do it. The other time I did it, I had a client, a buyer client, good friends of mine. They'd lost out on a couple of listings. Arbor Creek neighborhood. I called into the neighborhood saying, I've got a buyer, and please don't call in and say you've got a buyer if you don't have a buyer. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. I had a buyer. I found someone, Christine, and we did the deal. Christine, this is 20 years ago, is a very good friend of mine now. Try to get her into real estate too. But I had someone and I called, but I said, I've got a buyer. They want to buy in your neighborhood. And I had one. And she goes, Dave, I've been thinking about selling. And yeah, it wasn't going to be for a month, but yeah, come on over, take a look and see if it might work for your client. When I looked at it, it's like, oh, yeah, deal done. All right. So that kind of takes care of circle marketing, having a listing. Also, how do you get other listings from those listings? Geographical farming. I don't care how you contact them, whether you do a postcard, whether you do a phone call, whether you do it through social media. Keep in contact with them, be consistent. So buyers are another good source. Buyers, 35% of the buyers we work with have a house to sell. In this area, even like my Zillow leads, I'm getting 35% of those Zillow leads have a house to sell. 35% of YLAPO leads, which is another lead gen system we have a house to sell. So if you're asking the right questions and you're finding out their big why, you're going to find out, hey, we got 2 babies on the way. We got twins coming. Our house is too small. We need that larger house. Yeah, we got 3.5% interest rate, but we need that bigger house. We can't make this happen. And we will need to sell this house in order to buy the other house. No problem. No problem. I know that's stressful for you. You've got babies coming on the way. You've got a double move. We do this every day. We'll take that stress off your shoulders. Let's meet. It's an information gathering process. Let's put all the information together so you feel like you've got all the information, make informed decisions. Does that sound all right? Yes, because the last person that tried to call him was a sleazeball sales type, whatever. Okay. The people here are all warm, nurturing, and if you're like that, people want to do business with you and authentic. I mean, that Abby, you blew it up. So another source are FSBOs and expireds. Okay. I personally, I don't deal FSBOs at all. Most of them that I've come to meet and stuff like that are just total assholes, don't understand value and things like that. That's been my experience. I have friends of mine that do exclusively for sale by owners. And they have a thing where they go through a 7-step process and they get these FSBO listings. I prefer expireds. And why, Angela, why would a realtor prefer expireds to FSBOs?
Well, because with an expired, they have at least already put their house on the market officially. It's in the MLS. They've used an agent, so they have that experience versus a FSBO that's like, oh, I can just do it by myself.
And they've already agreed and consented to paying a commission, right? The only thing that happened was that particular realtor did not perform. Okay. So what you want to do is so when you call expired, make sure you do all the backward check and stuff like that. And one of the first things that I do on an expired listing is if I call an expired, and I don't do it very often, full disclosure, I've got so much business from these other things that we've talked about that I don't have to do this very often, but I do because I also enjoy it. It's a challenge for me. But the first thing I ask them is what? Because at the end of the day, what I think their house is worth, what they think their house is worth, a lot of that doesn't really matter, right? So what's the first question you ask for someone that had a bad experience and didn't get their house sold?
You gotta ask them why to hear it from their perspective.
Here's the best question to ask is what was your feedback?
That's good.
What was your feedback from your showings? I'm assuming when you had it on the market, you had some showings, correct? Yes, Dave. Yeah, we had about 10 showings. What was your feedback? You want to know what my answer is 90% of the time? What feedback? And you want to know what my answer to that is? Yeah, we didn't get any. Yeah. So you want to know what my answer is? So wait a second here. You're calling me, or in this case, I'm calling you, but so you actually had ready, willing, able buyers with money in their pocket that were pre-approved, ready to buy a house, and they're looking at your house, and Mr. and Mrs. Seller, when they're looking at your house, they're looking at all the competition. Okay, so you could have gotten right up front why your house didn't sell or why your house isn't selling. Was it price? Was it condition? Things like that. And you didn't get that feedback. I said, first of all, that's outrageous. That's ridiculous. The first thing, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's the whole thing is that I'd love to sit here and tell you that, I'm the greatest since sliced bread and I know the real estate market inside and out. And I do. I know the values and things like that. But at the end of the day, I don't know exactly what your house is going to sell for. Okay. What What I think your house is worth too doesn't really make a whole lot of difference. What you think your house is worth, it matters because you got to feel good about an offer you take or don't take. But you had ready, willing, and able buyers that were looking at yours and other ones. The feedback on that is what's important because the buyers are going to tell you if your price is too high. You need to do some adjustments inside the kitchen or flooring or painting, things like that. And that is what you need to know. You need to have that type of information. And the reason that's so important to me, Mr. and Mrs. Sellers, I make 9 attempts for feedback. I have a 92% success rate getting feedback. So if you have 10 showings, I'm going to have 9 feedbacks. And we're going to have right in front of us what we need to do to get that house sold. I'm going to know, if there's things that need to be done, price, things like that. Why didn't your realtor do that? And they'll go, makes a lot of sense. I mean, what? And that was one of the problems. There was no communication. Well, you're not going to have that problem here because, again, and to me, 100%, I think feedback is the most important thing. And I think these people that say don't give feedback to other realtors, I think that's bullshit. And I understand why, because you may offer on that house down the road and the seller goes, well, you left me negative feedback, so I'm not going to deal with your offer. Okay, so that 0.1% time, no, be a professional, give people feedback that can help them sell their house because reciprocity is everything in this business. There's going to come a day when you need feedback and you're going to go to them. If you didn't give it to them, you know what they're going to say? 2 letters. The first one is F, second one is U.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there any legal recourse or liability of us giving feedback? And if we do give feedback, should it be in our own opinion or should it be, this is what my client says?
So, I mean, the whole thing comes down to is, again, I think part of that's also reading the crowd is who's the other realtor and things like that. I mean, if you're giving feedback and I mean, if it's a potential that your client may write on that house down the road, I would probably give more neutral feedback. Or what I would do is I would give feedback by phone or something like that, rather than having something in writing. But the majority of the times, the feedback you're going to be giving, your client's not going to be writing on that house. And like I said, there's one lawsuit in Washington State where that's happening. And so what do all the gurus tell you at that point? Right? All the gurus now say, don't do it. You're going to get sued. You're going to do this, that, and the other thing. And again, I'm not a guru. Don't listen to what I say. I'm telling you as a listing agent that does a lot of this is that I rely on that feedback and I'm starting to work with more buyers now. I give feedback 100% of the time. It's not 99% of the time. I give it 100% of the time because this business is, if you want to be this, you're giving feedback and you're being a professional. You want to be a real estate professional? Help other people out. I don't care if they're in your brokerage or not. You give them that information because you're going to need that someday. You want those alliances. So give those feedback. If you run a team, tell your people to give the feedback too. Okay. And I understand why they say that. Come on. One person out of how many showings and things like that. And we're going to all of a sudden say, but again, I'm not your broker. Talk to your broker. Love that.
So
Love
your broker
that.
says,
I love that.
right, your Michigan
then-
broker, it's
and then
100% of the time you give feedback because it's you don't say things that you could get sued for, right? Like, oh, the house is totally falling down. I could see all the structural damage. Well, I'm not an inspector or structural engineer, but you've got to give those positives. You've got to give the negatives. And I put in the chat, we all know how often sellers don't 100% take our advice sometimes. And having that consistent feedback, when I said we really do need to replace this bleach carpet with the stains and blah, 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 and the carpet allowance is not enough. They don't listen to that. But when you have 5, 6, 7, 8 buyers come through with no offers and they all consistently say the same thing over and over, whether it's price or condition.
It reinforces.
Exactly.
Oh, yep, Abby.
I have a question. Okay, because
Yep.
this was a like pretty challenging thing that I dealt with this spring. So I'm just kind of curious to hear Dave and Angela's how they would handle something like this, just because of a comment you just made, Angela, about like you said, I'm not a structural engineer. If you were showing a buyer a house and it clearly had structural issues, right? We're not a structural engineer, we're just using common sense. This goes back to where, Dave, like you're too authentic sometimes. Like I'm, and I understand like walking a fine line, right? But it's like one of those things where like obviously there's something going on here. I happened to be at a house that we were looking at where there was like a corrugated foundation on the house, and it had been removed because it was like corrugated metal, and it was removed because the city inspector was coming to do a final plumbing inspection. So I just so happened to see underneath that house, and it was a mess. It was a disaster. It was an add-on. And I told my clients, like, I wouldn't purchase this home. Their dad was with them, who had been in the building world, and was like, yeah, this has structural issues, blah, blah, blah. This conversation got back to the listing agent because somebody knew somebody that worked together that was getting their hair done. And they were like, no, we didn't end up writing on that house because it had structural issues. And the agent called me and cussed me out
Yeah.
over the phone. So
So
I was just curious, like how, like
I'll answer
being an
that first.
advocate for our clients, like I'm just curious, like you just made that structural
Well,
comment issue. So I was like,
well, I'm hoping that you didn't say I wouldn't buy this house. I'm hoping
Yeah.
you did not say that.
well, I'm curious to hear like how would you guys handle that?
I handle that all the time, and
Yeah.
so I mean I've been through enough contractors inspections that I'll say, the foundation looks is worrisome to me.
Yeah.
Like when you see these horizontal cracks, where it's just horizontals and it's not vertical, I would say, I've seen enough basements where that's concerning to me. If this was something that would be interesting to you, my suggestion would be to have a structural engineer or a basement person come out and look at it prior to purchasing it. I wouldn't even go through the contractor's inspection, things like that. This is enough a red flag from my experience that
Mhm.
I would suggest doing that before you even write an offer. Never would I ever say I personally would not buy this house if it had this,
Yeah.
because you are projecting yourself into and they may have a family member that's a basement person that can go up and jack it up and redo it. You probably know that by then. But yeah, I would never give my personal opinion that you should not buy this house, because my job is not to tell my clients what to do.
Yep.
It's to provide them with all the information to make informed decisions.
Yeah.
Angela.
I'm the same way. I take the I out of it always. And I
Hmm.
learned that a long time ago with not like something crazy like this, but because I fell in love with this house. And my first time buyers apologized to me because they didn't want to write on it, but I loved it. And I was like, oh my gosh, the I needs to come out of my presentation at showings. So if it were me, and we have a lot of areas here with really old houses with structural issues, so I do to some degree know what to look for. And whether it's structural or there's an electrical panel that looks hazardous, I always point, this is why we're having a home inspection. This does seem concerning. I'm not an inspector, I'm not a structural engineer. Like I say that stuff all of the time. So obviously, if you love this house and you want to move forward, we need to have your protections in place, and maybe we ask for an extended inspection period because we know we might need to bring in some others. But I would never say to somebody for any reason, I would not buy this house, because it is their choice. So you can absolutely guide and protect your clients. That's our job, but you also can't make the decision for them. But you can offer the resources and how we would tackle this, whatever that situation may be.
But
Mhm.
you would be comfortable saying, like, from my experience, from conversations
100%.
I've had with home inspectors,
Yep,
I,
absolutely.
you see, you got to take the I out
Yep.
You
from
take
my
the eye out. Yep.
Yep.
experience.
Yep. And what
There
you're
could be some concern here. Is kind
you
of how you would
Hmm.
address that.
the way I've always looked at it is only difference between yourself and your clients is you have more knowledge about the real estate process. You do have more knowledge about the components of a home and things like that because of your experience of walking through many houses and contractors inspections and things like that. and say, this is to my eyes concerning. My recommendation would be if this is something you were interested in, that we would get a structural person out to eyeball it before we spend the money on the stuff. And the other part that I'm going to bring up, and again, I've got a lot more experience than probably most people here, is that I can't tell you how many times I've heard from a buyer's agent that walked into a house and said, "What a piece of shit. This is the nastiest house I've ever looked at." And then the buyer ends up wanting to write an offer on it.
Yeah.
And that gets awkward real quick. So you don't project your own stuff on it, but you do want to protect your clients, but yes, remove yourself from it, and then because there's also an emotional aspect of it as well, and you want to protect your mama bear, you
Well,
want to protect your
it
clients.
also comes down to the thing where it's like I work with like so our business is like half listings, half buyers. Of the buyers that I work with a lot of first-time home buyers. I work with a lot of buyers that they are clearing out their bank account to get into their house with their inspection appraisal, their closing costs, their down payment, right? Like they don't have 600 bucks to throw around at a home inspection just to walk away. So I
That's why
always
I'm
try
saying
to
do
like
the
keep that in mind and be like, hey, like,
That's why I would have them do, if they were interested in the house, I would have some type of inspection or that, or you call the other realtor and say, hey, I mean, that wall looks a little iffy just based on my experience. Have you had anyone come look at that? When they bought it, did they have someone check out that wall? Do you have any paperwork regarding it? If there was a repair done, like this court, if there was repair done to the wall, is there any documentation regarding it? And the reason I do that also is I want to open up a conversation because I want them to tell me as much. A lot of times these other realtors will tell you stuff that they probably shouldn't on behalf of their seller as well.
I actually sent her a picture of the back of that before any of this happened because that corrugated stuff was like unscrewed and it had been super windy that day. And I almost was like, man, I hope that didn't blow off. Someone I've done a lot of business with in the past. So I
Yeah.
actually sent her a picture of that and the metal laying in the yard. And I said, I just wanted to let you know that this is off of here. And she said, I know. And the city inspector's coming for a final plumbing inspection. And in that same conversation, she asked me, she said, are your clients going to write an offer? And I said, no. I told her, I said, no, they don't feel comfortable about what they've seen underneath the addition. And
Yep.
that was the end of our conversation. And then 4 days later, I had a,
Yeah, well, it's well, and that's, I mean, my guess is probably the conversation had been brought up to the seller before, and then when it was actually brought that this is an issue, and they heard that you said something, they're just gonna,
yeah,
they're frustrated. They're gonna take it out on someone.
yeah.
Um, yeah, the only part that I would have done is I wouldn't have used the I part, but I mean, you're looking out for your buyers, and your mama bear personality toward them. We're the same way, but we would kind of just be more of my mama bear would be, I don't want you spending any money on this house until we find out the foundation. Marie already knows how I feel about foundations and how important that is. If you have a bad foundation, and anything in life, if you have a bad foundation, the rest of it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So any other questions about listings? I know we kind of went on some tangents and things like that, but are there any specific questions y'all have about listing or what I can help you with? And then can I do one thing? We're trying to come up with some ideas about future. We're doing this once a week. What would be some things that you would like to have on a Zoom where what type of information would you like to learn about? What are things that you are thirsty for getting information? Is there any topics?
I
Because
think having those negotiation conversations, like whether between agent to agent, right? Whether you're on the buy side, list side, how to handle that where you can be firm, graceful, protecting your client. I have a lot of agent calls to me as a broker, and I know you did obviously when you were the broker as well, where there's really a struggle to have those conversations. And I think negotiating in the right way to do that, in the most professional way, it's an art form that not a lot of us are ever trained to do that, right? And it just happens over time or with experience, but that would be a big one.
And that's always a tough dance because we talk about, the biggest thing that I hate, and Angela knows this too because of our conversation recently. I hate bullies. I hate bullies more than anything else in life, and I will do anything to just destroy a bully, not physically. But I do not like bullies who try to bully other people. But sometimes you've got to be in how, and there's only one way to deal with a bully. And we've all run the bullies in the real estate industry. Unfortunately, there's only one way to deal with bullies. And what is that? It's not it's not bullying, but it's standing up to them and saying, no, first of all, you're not going to talk to me that way. We're
Yeah.
not going to play this game. I'm a real estate professional. If you want to be professional about this, let's do it. But the other part too that some people have trouble with, like if it's a veteran in the business and you're like newer, that I don't care who you are, I will. That's the way I am. Okay, but it did take me a while to learn that. But it all comes down to reading the room. It really comes down to reading the room. And a lot of that's experience, and a lot of that is finesse, but sometimes you got to be a bull in a china shop. And the question comes down to is when is each one appropriate? And the other part of it too is always ask yourself this one question, whatever you do in real estate. Okay. So Kathy and I are famous for this because she'll ask me about she'll tell me a problem's going on and she'll say, what should we do with it? And I'll say, ask yourself the one question. Okay, Dave, what's in my client's best interest? That's our guiding star. What is in our client's best interest? So are there times when I have to be dickhead Dave, excuse the terminology, but that's my alter ego when we have to be almost like a bully and stuff like that? Yeah, we do, because there's certain people that try to roll you, and even me. Doesn't happen often, but it does happen. And no, homie, don't play that. And we will have that discussion right then and there because that's not my client's best interest. But that's good. I'll take that. Any other types of things? I did see another one in the chat as far as some marketing things and things like that. What are some other things that would be helpful to people?
So, Dave, I think it would be nice to talk about different personalities and how you work with different clients. Because
Are you having trouble with different personalities, Liz? Oh, you muted yourself, Liz. Liz, you muted yourself.
yeah. No, I've gone with different agents and they're like, "Well, how did you get through to that client?" And I didn't. And so I said, "Well, their personality is very technology wise, or engineer or IT person." And so I presented a spreadsheet in comparing the properties. And so not everybody would do something like that, but because I have a financial background, that's something I did. And he just connected with me and didn't want to work with the other agent, even though she lived closer. So just trying to, what are the different techniques of working with different personalities?
Yeah, and we all know we have to be a chameleon. That
Hmm.
our engineer types, our artist types, it's and then the other part that I want everyone to understand is you don't have to work with everybody. Just remember that. If anyone disrespects you, show them the door. Period.
Hmm.
I'll give people one opportunity and I will call them out on it, saying no, I will not deal with that. I like myself too much to deal with something like this. If you can act in a professional manner, we can talk about continuing the relationship, but that's not going to happen again. And if you want to part ways, by all means, just be aware you don't have to work with everyone, and we don't have to work with everyone. Okay, so just remember that as well. But that would be a good one, and the personality aspect of it is something that I enjoy just because of being one of 12 kids and all kind of good stuff. So I learned to deal with a lot of different personalities at a young age. So I appreciate everybody being on the Zoom, and join us for future ones too. I mean, like I said, we're going to be here every week and trying to give you what information we can give you. We just want to give as much back to our community. We love our community and want to help you as much as we can.
Dave, I have
Okay?
one last thing before you
This is really
sign
great.
off.
Absolutely.
You were talking about circle prospecting, and
Yes.
I remembered these door tags I made like 3 years ago. So I just
Yep.
wanted to share it in case it's helpful for anybody. But and what made me go grab these is because you said, don't call somebody if you don't have a buyer, right? So I, at the time, was like, I was working with like 3 families. I couldn't get them under contract. So I printed these little door tags, and the front of it said, like, are you ready to plant new roots this spring? And I was gonna put like I had wildflower seed
Yep.
packet. And then
Yep.
on the back, like I literally told a little story about the family that I was looking for. Like their name's Lance and Kim. They're pre-approved for $350,000. They really want a house in your neighborhood. If you're thinking about selling, call me. So I had these made for 3 families. And then as soon as they came in the mail, I had all 3 of them under
Yeah.
contract.
But that
But
shows that it's authentic. You've got someone for it. You're giving them their story and everything like that as well. So that is a good one. Oop, she fell
Right.
off, but well, thanks everybody. Have a great day. And the other part too is always feel free to reach out to me directly if you have questions. And Beth, if you're having trouble with a particular client, want to know how to handle it, give me a call and we'll
Sure.
walk through it. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Dave.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day,
Great.
guys, gals. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it.